Have you wondered what financial advisors actually think about finances? This is your sneak peek at the conversations within Financial Design Studio. Michelle Smollenberger, the CEO here, will be your host as you go behind the designs.
Hi, and welcome back to the Behind the Designs podcast. I am your host, Michelle Smollenberger, the CEO and a financial advisor here at Financial Design Studio. And around this time of year, people are more likely to think about how they can use their finances to help others. Some people even think during retirement that they will have more time to serve on a not-for-profit board, or maybe they want to start a charity, or they want to give more of their time to one. So today we're going to be talking about how to use your finances to make a real-world impact. And I'd like to introduce you to today's guest, Shelly Nysinski-Reese. She is joining us from Tennessee. Welcome, Shelly.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. I'm excited to talk.
Thanks for joining us. It's fun. I know everyone's going to enjoy hearing your story and so much good information that's going to help people. By day, Shelly designs inspirational Christian gifts. She's a former public school teacher. She's a literacy coach, a mom of 2 kids, and in all of her spare minutes, and while she's doing those things, she also runs a charity that helps kids in Africa, many of whom are deaf, and that organization is called A Better Life for Kids. So we are going to hear the story of this organization. And really, today's podcast, I really want to help people see how they can make an impact. We've been talking a lot on our podcast about relationships and how our money achieves so many things. We need it to buy things. We need it to do stuff. However, it can do so much more. And so today's podcast is really helping people who want to make an impact. So year end is just a popular time where we're thinking about that. But even if you're retired or you have kids and you want to show them what's possible so that they can start, we care that our kids care about others too. So there's so many different reasons for today's podcast. So we are going to just dive right in so that you can get to know this organization. This is really going to give a great example to people of, when you're giving to an organization, what to think about, what to realize that these were started for reasons and they do a lot of important things. So that is what we're going to dig into. And then there's a lot of helpful things that Shelly is going to share with us to really understand what we need to know and how to make the biggest impact. So, all right. So Shelly, let's get started. Why don't you kind of take us back to the beginning of when you started A Better Life for Kids, what kind of drove that, what your passion.
So all my life, I've always had compassion for underprivileged children, those that were suffering. And in 2005, I heard Princess Zulu, who's an HIV positive woman activist from Zambia, speak about how you're never going to have enough time. You're never going to have enough money. If this is something that is on your heart, you just need to go. You need to do it. You need to start. And those words really resonated with me because I was a first-year teacher. I didn't have a lot of money. But I had the heart to do it. And she really inspired me to say, I'm going to go. And so I taught for 1 year, saved up money, and then I made my first solo trip to Ghana, Africa. And I fell in love with the people, with the kids, the community. And I saw what an impact I could have just being one person as a teacher. And that really motivated me to continue going back. And so I'm going to make my 21st trip back to Ghana this summer. So it's become like a second home. And everything really started when I saw so many kids living at the orphanage that were so incredibly sick with malaria, just high fevers, sweating through their shirts. And I thought, oh my goodness, the money needed to save their life at that time was $2. And I thought, how often do I go to Starbucks? And I don't even think twice on my way to work. And I pick up a coffee. And so when I came back to the States, it was like every coffee just reminded me of like, this could be life-saving treatment. This could be life-saving treatment. This could be life-saving treatment. And so, I would talk with my students and their families, my coworkers, family, friends. And on my second trip there, they were like, wow, we want to give the $2 to help with malaria. And we want to give some food. And, I'd shared about some of the babies that, there just was such a shortage of baby formula. Baby formula in America is really expensive. But in Ghana, it's even more because they're importing it. And there's all these extra taxes that are added on. And so for many people, it's just unaffordable. And so at a time when these babies' brains and bodies were growing and developing, they were just fed wet bread. And so it was little needs like that we thought we can give a small amount, but make such a big difference. And so we started small. And then as we saw more needs and more people joined in and wanted to be a part of the work, our mission and projects were able to grow to have the impact that we're having today.
Yeah, Shelly, I love your story. When you started, it wasn't this, take us back when you even went to Ghana the first time. Was it kind of like, okay, this is a trip, everyone's going on and there's like 30 of you and you're experiencing this together? What was that first trip of like, okay, I want to make a difference. I'm going to go somewhere. What was that like? Describe that.
It would have been great to go with a group of people, but it didn't present itself that way. And I thought, if this is something I really want to do, like, I'm just going to have to go. And so, I went by myself. And when I look back and I think about the danger and the adventure and everything I went through, I'm like, oh my goodness. But at the time I was just so excited and I just felt so called to do this. And I felt like, being there and being surrounded by such wonderful, friendly people, staying at the orphanage, living with a family, that it quickly felt like home. And so navigating some of those challenges, being 23 and in a third world country by myself, seemed a little bit more doable because I had such a wonderful group of like people that I had met that were local to Ghana.
Yeah. So how long did you stay that first trip that you went?
So I stayed that summer. So I taught my first year teaching and then spent the summer at an orphanage in Ghana. Yeah.
Okay. So you came home and then you kept thinking about it. So when you left, were you kind of thinking, I am going to start an organization to take care of these people? What was that like when you came home?
So when I came home, a lot of it was, the truth was I went into a grocery store for the first time getting home and just cried. I sat in the aisle crying. That is like a vivid memory in my mind. And I just was so overwhelmed by the choices of cereal that I had, and reflecting back to 2 days before, being among people who had nothing. And I just felt, I've been given so much. I need to find a way to give back. And so I didn't even think at all that it would ever become a charity, to be honest. I just felt like this was such a passion and that I would just keep going back. And what really became amazing is that other people kind of heard, the stories I would tell about the kids, or about the need, or about what could be possible if there was funding. And then, it was like that snowball impact of everyone wanted to get involved and do something small. And then it ended up becoming something large. And I just remember that my superintendent at my school district said, we would love to help you on an even greater scale, but you need to be a charity. We can't just give to a person. Yeah. Have you ever thought about starting a 501c3? And I'm like, I'm just a teacher. Like what would that even look like? And so, that's where, you just do research and network and connect with people and meet with people. And, we were really fortunate to be approved as a 501c3. And at that point, it became a Better Life for Kids. But that was in 2011. So I started going in 2006, made several trips. And then 2011 is when it officially became a charity. And I learned all about creating a board of directors and fundraising, having a budget, and just kind of had to develop a philosophy around how are we bringing money in and then how are we making decisions of how to spend it.
Yeah, no. So full disclosure, I know Shelly because I'm on the board for A Better Life for Kids. How many people do we have total? 9?
9.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, so there's 9 other and a variety just here around the Chicagoland area. So I've gotten to know a lot about this organization, which I'm going to be sure that we're telling a lot more of the specific stories of how we're helping these kids, because it's just so cool when you know that when you're giving, it's going to really make a difference. But I love actually that you shared, is someone else even telling you, hey, have you ever thought about starting an organization? Which you're absolutely right. If someone's going to give money, I mean, you trust an organization, right? That it's going to, and it has to be used for these causes now rather than going to you, who they could still very well trust. So I love that someone even prompted this idea for you. So, all right, so you start this organization, and I mean, just kind of explain in those early days, what were the basic needs? So when I look at this organization now, it's very different than when you started, almost 20 years ago. And so talk through the basic needs that you were meeting then that we still do today. And I know we're going to talk through kind of what more we're doing today.
So when we started out, it was kind of in response to a lot of the needs that I saw at the orphanage. Mm-hmm. And so when I originally started raising money, it was for medical care. So I really wanted to have treatment available when kids were bit by mosquitoes that had malaria. Malaria is the leading cause of death of children in Ghana under the age of 5. And so I thought it is so critical that we are able to give medication. But, the teacher in me is also thinking, how do we educate them so that we can prevent as much as possible this horrible sickness? And so that's where, in raising money for treated mosquito nets, it also came alongside, how do we educate them on the importance of using these nets every single day? With such a shortage of baby formula, that was one of our initial goals, and food, because the orphanage was often very, very low, critically low on food, and there was very little nutritional value to the food they were able to give. And then I had an opportunity with the orphanage manager to travel to the northern tribal regions in subsequent trips. And here people are living in beautiful round huts, with no electricity, no running water. Daily life is such a struggle. And I saw so many kids who were not in school. What a blessing. Education, one of the most powerful weapons we can have to change the world. And I just thought, how do we get these kids in school? And in Ghana, it's money. You need to have money for school tuition, but every school also has required school uniforms. You need closed-toed shoes. You need a backpack. So I started with, okay, that's what we're going to do. And then on my next trip back to Ghana, I met with the kids. I met with the headmaster of the school and the teachers. And I was like, how is it going? And they're like, it's amazing. Your kids are going to school. They have an opportunity to learn. They're so motivated, but they're really hungry. They don't have any food. They're coming to school. They don't have money for lunch. They're really not eating in the morning. And they don't really have any school supplies. Here's kind of what's required. And I thought, oh my gosh, of course we want to be feeding them. And so then I went back to the donors in the United States, and I was like, this is great. They're going to school. They're learning. They're so happy, but they're hungry and they need more supplies. And what's important to us is, holistic care. We want to really look at the whole child and think, how do we help them be successful? And so, from there grew some of them, because they started school later in life. They needed more tutoring. They needed extra books and extra materials. A lot of these kids who are living in these tribal villages with no electricity, they needed light to study at night. And so we wanted to give every sponsored child a solar powered light, so that when they got home from, working on the farm or collecting water, and it was dark, they had a resource to study, to do schoolwork, to be prepared in school for their tests, so they could have confidence that they were coming prepared. Because when you grow up with such needs or in an orphanage, some of those basic things are not possible for you, and you just go without. And we just wanted our kids to have everything possible to be successful, because they were already starting out so disadvantaged, with so much trauma, with so much to overcome. And so the best chance at them being successful. And so, as I kept going back and meeting with all the people we're supporting, and just really talking with the local people, with the tribal elders, on how we can be more successful, what projects are needed, as I saw for myself needs that definitely need to be met. That was where I then took it back to the donors in the United States and showed pictures and videos and told stories of, oh my goodness, the people in these villages, this is the water they're drinking. Like, this is the water. And I would fill it up with a cup, and it would just be totally dirty, disgusting water that you would not allow your children to even play in. Mm-hmm. And this is what they're drinking. This is what they're washing their clothes in. Mm-hmm. And I thought, we've got to do something to help. And so I think, we're a small but mighty group of volunteers. Like you said, our board members are outstanding. So many of them have been with us from the very beginning. And it's just such a blessing to have their time, their talent, their support to help with ideas, with fundraisers to make all this possible. Because the reality is, all of this good, meaningful work costs money. And so we have to raise as much as we can to be able to do new projects, but to also keep those old projects going. Because while we did drill a well and bring water to an amazing 1,100 community village where we want that to continue to always be free, and we want to empower the local people to maintain it every single time it's needed, we wanted to keep that going while also being able to expand into new projects. So all the kids we sponsored from the beginning, we want to keep sponsoring. And so it's just that group of community support who are saying, like, yes, we are in it with you. We are going to help support these kids, and we want to support new projects. And then really trying to just communicate frequently. One of our board members does all of our social media posting. She's incredible with keeping people updated on the kids and the stories and the needs and the impact and the success. So we can all celebrate together, and we can learn together, and we can, just bring all of our ideas, the people in the United States and the people in Ghana. It's really important that we talk together to figure out, how do we bring change?
One of the biggest things, I think that I realized is, you're communicating with them daily, all the time, because, a lot of times it's kind of like, hey, they don't, it's not like you're just sending money and they're figuring out how to do it. Like, our board sits down and kind of says, okay, here's what school costs for these kids. Here's what uniform, like all of these things, food, and some of the programs that you have, like you've already mentioned, but like the eggs, protein, the nutrition they're getting every day, that egg a day, for each kid, stuff like that they weren't getting before. Even like the well, and we might touch on too, like just like last year, one of our big projects was to build a home for a family. And one of the things that was part of that was just even bringing power to the home, which was, this is so unheard of. And it not only helped like this one, like home, but the whole community then benefits. And so some of the things like you're talking about is, how do we make a big impact? And so it's not even just on these individual people who are receiving, these kids that are receiving these benefits, but it's also the whole community. And so there's so many more people benefiting. Now, one thing we haven't touched on is a lot of these kids actually are deaf. So, within their culture, this is just something like just stands out to me is that, here in the US, if we have some type of a disability or something that inhibits us from learning or just everyday life, there's resources and tools and therapy and things that we can benefit from. But there, it's very different. It's, you're almost like outcast kind of from society. However, like, being deaf, I know you've shared this and taught me. So maybe just explain a little bit of like that piece too.
So part of the reason I initially chose the orphanage to volunteer at for the very first time that I did is that I learned a lot of kids living there were deaf. And I thought, knowing some sign language, I might be able to help them. And I quickly learned, like you said, in Ghana, any disability, unfortunately, including deafness, is just so highly stigmatized. That these kids are rejected by their parents, they're shunned by their communities, and they're abandoned to live in orphanages. Mm-hmm. And in Ghana, meningitis is the leading cause of deafness. Mm-hmm. And so the overwhelming majority of these children were born hearing. Then they contracted meningitis, and they survived one of the worst illnesses of their life that then took their hearing. Mm-hmm. And it is out of fear that the community, that the parents feel like the child is cursed. They think that it might be contagious. And there is just such a stigma that unfortunately, what happens is these kids are just left at the door of the orphanage. And so one specific story to me that just shows the power that, a small group can make is I met a little girl almost 15 years ago named Ashatu. I was actually at the orphanage the day she was brought, and she was just this little girl, maybe 3 or 4 years old. And she was dropped off because she was deaf, and her parents just said they were very, very afraid of her. They left her there. And she was so heartbrokenly sad, but she was also very angry and so confused about why her world had suddenly changed. It was very similar to the story we know of Helen Keller. And so this girl was so hesitant to open up, so slow to trust. But almost 15 years later, she, because of A Better Life for Kids and the donors who rallied around her and just loved her and encouraged her, who fought so hard and advocated for her to go to really good schools for the deaf, we saw her smiling and proudly wearing a school uniform. That was one of the best feelings to me. One of the best feelings is to see these kids that are deaf wearing that school uniform of pride, going to a school where they're learning proper sign language, how to read, how to write. And then right now, Ashatu is learning how to be a seamstress. And so A Better Life for Kids donors have supported her since she was really small. And now that she's graduated senior high, we want to help her learn a trade. So if you think about, imagine an orphan who is totally rejected and shunned, who's deaf. Now she's learning a skill so that she can have a future where she would have a job to earn money to sustain herself. It is truly almost unheard of. And I just think of it's because of A Better Life for Kids donors who came alongside and loved her. And so many of our donors, many of them actually kids, elementary school kids, middle school kids, high school kids, who over the years have written letters, who have sent videos in sign language, Girl Scout troops, birthday parties. There's just been so much outpouring of love for all of our kids. But I think for the kids that are deaf, it has meant more to them because they are just, they don't have parents that are saying, I love you, I'm proud of you, you can do it. And then they have a community and a culture who views them very, very negatively. And so then to have kids in the United States be writing them letters and learning their language and wanting to encourage them. If you were to go to Ghana right now, and if you were to meet with all the kids who are deaf, I guarantee almost all of them would have the letters with them. They carry these letters with them. Some of them are so taped up and tattered and torn, and they tell us whenever they're feeling really sad, this is what they read. And it's just gosh. Yeah. It's just really powerful to see what we're doing is working. What everyone joining us in is a part of this success.
Yeah, I think that's what really strikes me, now and kind of looking back and since the beginning is, a lot of these kids that we are supporting, it was a lot of these basic needs, a lot of things you're providing. And now these kids are getting older. And one of the coolest things is that, kids that never would have been given a chance, never thought to succeed, they're graduating from high school, they're going on to college or their education system, they're going on, some of them are, starting in the trades, which is even different than here. And so now the things that we're looking into them for them, you're working with them on the ground there to say, okay, we need to find business owners who will take them in and teach them this trade, because there it's not like here where it's kind of you've kind of said maybe a 3-year internship, but you have to pay to learn this trade. And then you can start to be able to do it to get paid. And so, and again, with kind of this, stigma of being deaf. However, what's so cool is that, from the time these kids were young and to now, they've been given a chance, they've been given the resources they need. And so now they're going out and they just are so thankful. I know you share with a lot of us, you share, how they're so grateful and, and now, so as they go on, what I'm most excited about is as these kids grow, they now have the opportunity to kind of pour into these younger kids. And, it just kind of, the cycle continues and grows. And so I know they're just different things that we're working on as a board, different challenges, to keep adding to how we help to continue to really launch them to be, successful, to be able to provide for themselves. And these are it's just so different, than it might be here. And so I just think it's so powerful, the difference that people can make in others' lives. No. So what I want to kind of start to talk through, we've talked about a lot of like specific stories. This is so helpful. We want people to know like it's possible to start an organization. Like this may be something where you're saying, I want to do this, but it's possible to start an organization when you care about something so much. We also see people who, set aside a lot of money that they want to give to organizations in the future or every year. That's just part of something that they want to do, but also like the what's possible. So we're going to really get into some of the details if you are someone who likes to give, because Shelly, I think you have a lot of knowledge for people and wisdom in how to give well, how to know who you're giving to. So you'll share a lot of that. This can be a useful financial planning tool that also achieves your goals. So I think a lot of times it's easy to say, I want to give money because I get a benefit, a tax benefit. It's going to decrease my taxes. But when you are someone who wants to give and you care about others or certain causes, it's also like when you pair them together, you're achieving your goals, but you're also changing, or decreasing the taxes you pay. It's just kind of a natural thank you, like part of our tax code. But I just think it's important for people to know that you don't have to like change your goals just because, you make a lot of money or something, or you want to give a lot away. They actually work together. So I want to touch a little bit on like what charitable giving looks like in financial planning and give people a couple of examples. One, and this just kind of helps I know people who want to give to the organization. So it's kind of like, okay, just think, when you're making an impact, there's ways to do it. First, we even had like a client meeting yesterday, and this client was going to have some stock options from their company. So this company's value is increased in value. So they're going to have a big taxable gain. And I know a lot of people, like when you're dealing with your finances, you're kind of like, oh, I'm going to have these taxes to pay, but you have this large gain. As an advisor, I'm thinking, but there's so much we can do because if they like to give and want to give to organizations, you can pair that in the year that you might have these large gains, and then you kind of neutralize the taxes that you're going to pay by giving to organizations. You have these gains, and so the tax impact of that can work in your favor. So not necessarily kind of like, oh, how can I save in taxes? But some people are really motivated because they want to help others. So that's a great example of how you can use like a gain just from, something that you've been given. Another way is, people who are now kind of in retirement, and once you turn 70 and a half, you can actually use the money that you have to take from your retirement accounts. You have to take this money out. And when you do, you pay taxes on it. But if you don't need these funds and you want to give them to organizations to help to make an impact, those funds that you give directly from those retirement accounts are actually not taxed. So you don't pay tax on it, and it's going to a great cause. So those are qualified charitable distributions that you can give from these accounts. So this just gives people a really good idea of some ways that they can save money in taxes, but ultimately they're achieving the goals they have. So when we talk about this, so if someone's saying, yes, I want to give money because I'm in these examples, what are some things that you would kind of tell people, like how to research, what to look for? Because some people just aren't aware of the organizations that are out there like yours. So where would you even, say how to get started in looking for who to give to?
So personally, I just believe it's so important to support charities that have a strong local team on the ground overseeing all of the work and the projects. Mm-hmm. I think that frequent communication with that team is essential just to keep a pulse on everything that's going on. So for us, that looks like, we're traveling to Ghana several times a year. So we are frequently on the ground, but then we have an incredible team of local Ghanaians that we work very closely with, who are executing and overseeing and have a role in doing their piece while we're not there. And then talking, reporting, sharing, bringing to us everything that they're seeing and noticing, pictures and videos. I just think that an organization that has that relationship with the local people and are working with them to understand what their needs are, where they are coming from, how their culture impacts their life and their decisions and their goals. I just think that to me is a really important piece, is finding a charity that's something that's important to them too. I personally also think, just from the work that I've seen done, charities who make part of their focus on educating people on the work that they're doing. So instead of just giving aid, if they can empower the people with knowledge, with information as part of the help they're receiving, I've seen that to go such a long way, especially in Ghana. We just see a lot of wells that were drilled by charities where they came once, they trained the local people on what to do, and then they left. Yeah. And what's really hard is when you train the local people one time, it's just not enough. They need ongoing support. They need ongoing training. They need ongoing tools. They need money to continue to fund a lot of these projects. And so there's just a lot of aid that's being just dropped off, given, done, which is amazing. But I think where the power would come in is on that follow through. And so having that local team there and that constant communication, just making sure that all the kinks are kind of ironed out. The people are empowered to do some of the work that they've been trained to do, and that you're getting impact from the local people. And it's not just coming from ideas that we might have in the States.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. Also, too, I mean, I know you've even invited, board members saying, come with me so that you can see things, and probably just kind of like that openness even of the organization to be willing to say, join us on our next trip. Because then when people see it, when you get involved, when you're directly impacted by it personally and you see firsthand, I feel like it just means that much more to you. So I know you've even kind of said, as a board member, please come. So I think would you say that that's just a great way if you really care about the cause and you want to even go see it for yourself?
Absolutely. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, that's helpful. Talk us through a little bit of, when you're looking at what you spend money on, how much you spend, when, I feel like A Better Life for Kids is unique in how you spend money, in how you manage the finances. Why not kind of just share your philosophy, how you think about this?
So something that's been really important to me from the very beginning is to be able to take all of the money that donors give and to put 100% of that directly towards the kids. And so the reason that that's possible is because we have just an exceptional group of board members who are donating their time. And so there's such a value, right, in time. You just really need people who are committed and passionate to serve and give time. And so since we have that on a volunteer basis, we've got other volunteers who are giving to help support and even host fundraising events. And then we do have a few donors who say, we want to give specifically to any overhead you may have, so that all of the money that donors give for the mission, you can put towards the mission. So, we don't have an office, we don't have salaries. It's really just, we're all just everyday people working jobs in careers, just that this is a side passion that we just want to give what we can, time-wise, talent-wise, to try to make a difference, make an impact. And so, every trip that I take to Ghana, I'm personally paying for all of that. Board members and family friends that have come with us to Ghana, they've paid their own way to do that, because we really want to put donor money towards the work that we're doing. And because we're small and, there's a limited pot of money, we just really want to use that as wisely as possible. And so just even as a board, we have a lot of conversations on, is this what we want to put money towards? Is this going to have the biggest impact? How do we look in the future? And it's even talking with our local team. What do they see as challenges down the road? How do we plan for that? What type of fundraising do we need to do? How do we reach out to have donors supporting this specific need? And so just really trying to be sure that we can raise the money that we need to continue to fuel and funnel this work. And it's really hard to say no. when our team in Ghana, I so frequently get pictures of kids and I get a write up on their story, or I meet them and I'm hearing like what the need is or what they're coming from or what challenge they are experiencing. And I want to give to every single one of them. It is so hard to turn anyone down. All these people are amazing and deserving and their ideas are so great. But because we are small, like there is only a certain amount of money that we have. And so I just want to be sure with that amount of money we do have, it is going to the work directly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's what's so neat though is, I mean, that you're so busy doing all of these things, you're so passionate about it, but all of us that are involved in it, like we're volunteering, like you said, but it's just so unique because so many organizations to get these things done. I mean, we have events throughout the year and those events take planning. They take, being there that day, they take time to get implemented. And normally, and it would make sense that an organization would hire someone to do all of this, but because volunteers are doing it, that just makes it even more possible that everything can go to the kids. So it's just so unique. So if someone wants to give or they hear of an organization, is there a place, a website, something that people can go to kind of see like what their annual budget is or how much goes? Like, can you talk us through how people could find this information?
So GuideStar is probably the most well-known resource because the IRS is directly regulating all of that and pulling in all tax returns and automatically uploading there. So you can see a bigger picture from that website. I feel like that website is really, really wonderful, especially for like larger charities. But for some of the small ones like us, in order to achieve their gold status, you do need to have an audit that's over $10,000 that you're uploading to achieve that status level. So I was like, oh, we're never going to get to be gold just because, with our mission being so focused on the kids, I just can't even imagine spending $10,000 for that audit. So I will be happy with our silver, our silver status. So I think that's the one thing just to note about GuideStar is sometimes a large amount of money is needed to prove you really are using the money how you're intending it at that highest level. But I think that's a great way. But I love what you said too on reaching out to the organization. We have so many people. I get several emails every month where people are reaching out and asking me questions like, hey, I'm just wondering, like, do you work with the local people and how much education work are you doing? And can you talk me through this? Or, I really want to give through my work. I just want to make sure, my employer does some sort of matching program. I want to add you to it, but there's a questionnaire. Can we talk through that? I am so excited to share about A Better Life for Kids and what we do. I know all of our board members, right, are very excited to always talk more. And, we welcome new ideas. Like we want new ideas. We want people to say, what about this? Or how about this? Did you think about this? So I think just like that open communication is great on both ends. And so if someone is wondering how money is being used, we're an open book. And I know that there are a lot of charities that feel that same way. And so I think that there's comfort too when you reach out with the type of response that you get that can make a lot of people feel more comfortable. To me, people who are giving, like we want to get to know you. Like we're so excited. We're like a family of donors that when new people jump on board, like it's really exciting that for, some of those smaller organizations, that's something that is really important too. So they might even realize that if they're interested, there could even be a greater way that they are involved.
Yeah. And I think even with GuideStar, even if you aren't like the gold status, one of the nice things is like the silver is still like they have things that it's kind of like the transparency seal that they give to organizations. And it just says like that they're showing everything. They're showing like being transparent with their information. So I think one nice thing with that website too is that even if you aren't paying for a large audit that you don't really need or want to spend on, there are ways that it's saying, but like all of their information is here. And so, and like you said, you can ask, if you're ever wondering, and I know like that's all information you would share. When we think about like even our budget for the year for the organization is, okay, if we're spending like $100,000 a year, like 10% of that for an audit, like you're right, it doesn't make sense. And so I just think this is helpful for people to know because there's so many organizations they may want to give to. And so even understanding kind of how that website shows that information and how to get those status, I think that just really helps people to know when they're looking there, that's a great place to see what they can. So thanks for explaining it, because I actually think that's really valuable for people to know. So I want to help people know, like, okay, giving your money is not the only way to give to organizations. And we've touched on this a lot of actually how people giving their time really saves a lot of money that organizations would have to spend. But your time is really valuable too. And I just think of people who, often we will hear people who are getting ready to retire but they aren't ready to because they don't know what they're going to do in retirement. And so there's so many ways that people can get involved. I also know other people who are so much busier once they retire because, they might have families or grandkids, but also organizations they love. And, I remember a client who volunteered at a prison tutoring. She used to be a teacher and she went to the prison to tutor and teach people there. And so I just, there's so many places that can use your skills and abilities. And so I just want help people to see, how you can make an impact, whatever age you are, because you have things that are valuable to other people that you can share. Have you seen, I guess, what are ways that you've seen, because you have firsthand with A Better Life for Kids since it started. So what are ways that people kind of gave their time or just even said, hey, what about this? Do you want to share like some of those kind of from the early days that really kind of helped the organization to grow?
I mean, we are successful because of the volunteers. Our volunteers are everything. I mean, it is such a gift to have someone give of their time, of their talents, of their ideas. Financial giving is amazing. But volunteering your time, your talent, that is so powerful. And I just think about, even young kids. So it's like from young kids to families to adults to people who are retired, who have all that wisdom and experience to pour into an organization. There's so much value there that I would almost say where we've really benefited is these people, had a similar heart, right? Whether it's kids who live in an orphanage, disabilities, clean water, safe housing, keeping families together. So something we were doing really resonated with them and they said, like, we want to help. And so depending on their skill or their area that they wanted to support us in, there has always been something that's been such a gift, whether it be writing letters to the kids that live in the orphanage, whether it be learning some sign language and making some videos. We did so many different projects just with local schools, Girl Scout troops, Cub Scouts, so many different organizations on just how can they bring hope and encouragement. And so, some of them wanted to teach the kids in Ghana something. And so they did videos of their specialized skills of things that they did in America. Then our kids in Ghana did the same thing. And so then we kind of shared. And so they got to learn about each other. And it was like a kind of like a pen pal project. We've done different pen pal projects with different high school students. But even if it's just someone writing thank you notes to our donors, that's so amazing. Someone saying, I'm going to come and volunteer at your fundraising event. I'm going to greet people and I'm going to give them a brochure. That's amazing. Like someone saying, I have an idea. I just want to talk this through, or my job is going to match funding. How do I help? How can I help maximize some of that with you? Yeah. Or, I own this sort of company. Could we donate these products? Do you have a need for this? Or just trying to come alongside us with where they're personally coming from and the resources they have, and just saying what might it look like? And it's sometimes it's as small as, I had someone say, oh, my dentist is really interested in doing work in Africa. Do you need a dentist? Yes, these kids have never seen a dentist. Yeah. And so it's little things that people who are dentists every single day, they're doing their job. But wow, to do that same job in Ghana is a once in a lifetime experience. If you just think of how powerful that is. And so sometimes it's, on a bigger scale, thinking what talent do I have? Could I serve in some capacity with that talent abroad? Yeah. And whether it's with the Better Life for Kids or with other organizations, there's just so many groups of people who need the specialized skills that we here have, that we do every day, that just trying to take that to them and to educate them is such a powerful thing. It kind of comes down to, you and I were talking earlier about you almost need to like think about something you're really passionate about. What is happening in the world that breaks your heart? What's a problem that you see in the world that you want to solve? And then try to find a charity that's already solving that problem really well. Get involved and stay involved, because having those committed volunteers that are going to stay, that are in it with you for the long haul, that are going to do the fundraising event time and time and time again, like that's gold. That's where really powerful work is possible. And so just as a way of kind of thinking about, we all experience things that make us really sad. How can we be part of the solution? How do we work with other organizations that are already doing it and join in? I've just seen so much power in that.
Yeah, no, I love these ideas because even as a board member, we have an event coming up. So the Gingerbread House event. One of the things that we always try to tie this back to is, so these are kids that we're helping in Africa. And so I know something you always love to say is kids helping kids. Like you just love the impact of that and just helping kids understand that they can help other kids. And so the gingerbread house decorating event that we have that's coming up, you basically like you get a house, so you buy a kit, and we have like we have a candy shop, we have extra candy, and you decorate it, but it helps to kind of like helps kids actually put together that they're helping other kids. And so, the events, like we have 3 or 4 events every year. So we have a golf outing, a brunch. These are the things where this one especially gives kids the chance to help others. And especially at Christmas time when, they might be thinking, well, what am I getting for Christmas? And they might be getting things for others, but it's a way to give something, or help them to understand that there are other kids. And so by being a part of this, they're, buying a house, but okay, yes, I'm buying a house and I could go buy one for cheap, but part of that is, yes, you're getting the gingerbread house to decorate, but it's going to a great cause, the rest of it, and you're supporting someone else. So I love that, even just having events, so looking for events that your kids can directly connect, the causes that they love and what they care about, you can really help them to see that they can make a difference, even at a young age. So I just even think about things like that.
Well, and I think that those open the door to really meaningful conversations, because families want to raise up their kids to be world changers, to be leaders. They want to have conversations about compassion and empathy and social justice and giving back. And what can we do to have an impact? How can we make the world a better place? And so by having this gingerbread event for families, it's really a way of coming together. It's just so much more than decorating a gingerbread house, which is so fun, right? Like all the candy, all the stuff that goes into the kit to make it really fun. But it also is an opportunity to pause at this holiday season and to think about, what we have that we're so thankful for, and to learn about other kids that are in need. And so, just with the gingerbread house kits that we do, we're going to feature 6 different kids that we have a picture of them and a little bit about their stories. So you can have a connection with them. You have an opportunity to, write them a letter or make a video for them, but then to follow up as a family with saying, what does our family believe in? What does our family want to support? Here was A Better Life for Kids, who's doing work to help children in Ghana. Like, what are some other things that our family might want to do? How else might we give back? Do we want to do a volunteer day? Is there some place that we might go and serve as a family? Is there money that we want to be saving to have a greater impact? I know a lot of kids and families will save money to buy a hen that lives on A Better Life for Kids chicken farm. And, we have an initiative where they can name the hen and have a certificate of the hen, and we can paint their name and the hen's name on our chicken coop. And some of our kids who are deaf make a little hen plushie that they get as a remembrance of their impact and the difference they're making. But, even conversations like how we want to use extra money that our family has, we could go on a vacation, or we could do this, or, and it's just having an open, having an opportunity really for families to have these conversations. I think it's just feedback that we've gotten that families enjoy, that it's almost like a launch pad for what's really important around the holidays. And for me, I love kids so much. I really want to empower kids, and I want kids to see that they can make a difference. They can make the world a better place. And if we can empower them from a young age to feel like they did something and they were involved in change and in an organization, do you know what happens? Those kids grow up to be adults that say, I can do something. I can have an impact. I'm going to give in this way. Like they already have a heart that's been so conditioned to give and to be generous because they've seen the tangible impact and they've felt that joy and they've seen the power that I think that that's just motivation to keep on going. And, you know, whether it's with A Better Life for Kids or with an organization like that they know and love, we just want to like inspire that passion and we want to help kids feel like they can do it. Every single kid can make a difference. Every single adult can make a difference. And so I think by this gingerbread event, we're really, what's important is that it's just so much more than just a kit, that you're making so many wonderful things possible in Ghana. And I think around the holidays, those are things that a lot of families are looking to be a part of.
No, thank you so much for sharing all this. I feel like it's been helpful just for people to understand, you know, even if there's organizations they already give to, sometimes it's just like a good reminder to ask what's new with what they're doing now. What is it that they've seen? I just love every time we get together or that you're sharing like, oh, this is a recent story. I mean, one of the students even came to the US this year on a program where she was able to come here and see so many things. And she stayed with a family who was also like deaf and just, I mean, so there's so much that happens. And I would just encourage people, if there's organizations you're already giving to or a part of, you know, be sure that you're asking what's new, like who are we helping now? And because things do change over time, but it's really exciting to see how that grows and builds. And like you said, like you are like a world changer. And even if it's just for one person's world, you're changing that. And so I think just the impact that people can make. So I hope this has been really helpful just to see like the possibilities, all of these things that, you know, you're capable of when you may just be saying, I just have money or I just have time. But those things are so valuable and you can be spreading those and helping others. And it also achieves your goals. So thank you for joining us, Shelly. Is there anything else you want to kind of share? I'm going to talk a little bit about our Gingerbread House event coming up. So if people want to come, but anything you want to share kind of in closing?
Well, just thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk a little bit more about the work that we're doing in Ghana with kids. And just thank you, Michelle and, your company that you're trying to encourage people to use their money in this really meaningful way. I mean, it's incredible and it's an honor to be a part of this. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. No, this has been really great. And I hope this is helpful for people. So something we want to be sure is that, people don't let this year pass by without finding an opportunity to give to others, whatever that looks like, as we've talked about. We're going to link to A Better Life for Kids in the show notes. So abetterlifeforkids.org. You can go to the website. This year, what's exciting is we have 4 different events. So you can either pick up your kits to go, or you can come in person and decorate with a bunch of extra cute candy. But we just wanted to encourage you to kind of do your research and figure out where you want to make an impact. Your skills are really valuable and you can make a difference to others. So we're going to link to some articles that we wrote a couple years ago because our team, we all have different organizations we love. To GuideStar, that's a great resource just to look into charities and know what they're about and how they're spending their money. That's another great resource. So we hope that this has been really helpful and that this season you can find something to get involved in, or just to start thinking maybe after the new year, what do I want to do?
Thanks for listening. To find any links or resources related to this episode, check out our show notes. Your host was Michelle Smallenberger, a certified financial planner and CEO. The guests featured are from Financial Design Studio, a team of experienced fiduciary, fee-only advisors based in Chicago. Anna Lewis is the executive producer of the Behind the Designs podcast. And as always, for more information about Financial Design Studio and who we are, check out our website, financialdesignstudio.com. And final note, no content discussed on this podcast should be taken as financial advice. Financial Design Studio accepts no responsibility for your individual choices. We'll see you in the next episode.